Hey, what's happening, y'all? So, listen, I wanted to talk about the incident that happened at the track meet the other day with the young lady that hit the other young lady that she was competing against with the baton. And the reason that I wanted to talk about that incident was because a lot of us that have gone through narcissistic abuse have kind of tried to figure out, like, how could a person do the things that they do with no accountability. And then a lot of us have gone even deeper into the conversation of whether this was a nature versus nurture type of situation. So um, people that have gone really deep into this have tried to figure out, is this person a psychopath, or is this person a narcissist, or is this person a sociopath? And then when you start digging into the layers of um, I guess narcissism, or I guess the traits that we would consider like the cluster B traits, the more and more we dig into those traits, the more and more we try to figure out, like, um, whether this was something that this person was genetically born with, or was this something that was nurtured over time. And I believe that the track incident is one of those situations that kind of shows us how a person can grow to learn to not take accountability for the things that they do, because they have the support system all the time that's always there to always step in and be a barrier in between anything that they do wrong. And that happens a lot with, you know, attractive people. That happens a lot with popular people. That happens a lot with rich people. And I mean, it's just, unfortunately, it's one of those things that we have to deal with that's a part of our culture, that is kind of like, we wish it wasn't that way, but unfortunately, if you have certain things going for you, you can buy loyalty almost. You know what I'm saying? So it's like people will almost blindly support you, just because of whatever status that you have, or even if you have a victimhood status, like, and that's one of the things that a lot of people try to play on in the current climate that we live in. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to do this video. So we've all seen the video pretty much, and for any of you guys that haven't seen the video, it's all over YouTube. You guys can kind of Google it, or check one of the other YouTube sites. But basically, it was a relay race going on, and I used to actually run track when I was a younger child. I didn't do it for a long time. It was just something that I was kind of interested in, and I just so happened to be pretty good at it. And one of my favorite events was the relays. So I do understand that, because one of the things that I heard about, the one of the things that I didn't like is I've heard a lot of people try to minimize the situation and say, well, batons aren't really that hard and all of that kind of stuff. But I'm here to tell you that they aren't super duper heavy, but they are built of aluminum, and you can still hit somebody hard enough to do damage to where it breaks your skin, breaks blood. And I think they say that the young lady actually had a concussion from the incident. So it's believable that that could happen from an actual baton strike, especially the way she did it. You know what I'm saying? So, and then being an athlete myself and being somebody that has competed in those events, I know for sure that, just looking from the clip and just looking from the whole situation, that was definitely done intentionally. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Please, if you guys have seen the clip, put a 1 in the chat if you think that it was intentional, or put a 2 in the chat if you think that it could have actually been accidental, and it was how she said that basically the baton got stuck on her back, and in between them, basically she said the other runner crossed over into her lane basically, and it caused her to get the baton stuck on her back, and in her attempt to try to, I guess, free herself, she had to lift the baton up, and which came down as a strike. Now, to me, I know what it feels like to put everything into something and then it not work out the way that you wanted to. So for her to be an athlete, she probably put everything into her career as an athlete. She wanted to run track, she wanted to be the best, and she was competitive. It would have been a better story if she had kind of just told the truth and said, "Hey, listen, I wanted to win. I put everything into this. I have trained and practiced for months and months and months, and then all of a sudden, this girl started putting away from me. I got in my emotions, and my emotions took the best of me." A lot of us could have understood that, but the fact that she tried to cover it up and the fact that she has so many people that are willing to cover it up just kind of shows the climate of where we are just as people. It's like she knows that she did that intentionally. We all saw the video, and but it's still like, well, it's my story against yours. And the funny thing about it is I haven't heard much rebuttal from the young lady that actually got hit. The one that's been doing the most, talking and most complaining about the situation is actually the person who did the hitting, which kind of reminds me of the smear campaign, because it's like a lot of us have gone through the smear campaign and we wonder like why this person has just started coming up and making all of these lies and making all of these, and then in these situations it kind of shows you why it happens, because they're trying to spin a narrative. Whatever narrative will work for whatever story that they're trying to tell, that's what they're going to go with. So I just like I said, I wanted to do a video on this because I felt like it was very relevant and very relevant to the topic of narcissism, and it kind of shows how accountability is one of those things where you have to be taught to take it, and if you aren't taught to take it, you'll be taught not to take it. So when we grow up and we are involved in relationships with people that don't take accountability, and we're wondering why this person, how this person can do the things that they do and not take any accountability for it, it's because they have been trained to do this pretty much all of their life. You know what I'm saying? So it's not something that's foreign to them. It's foreign to us because we've probably been trained to take accountability for everything that we've done. Like, especially a lot of men, the society that we live in forces men to take accountability for any mistakes that we make. And don't get me wrong, there's still some men that are going to do their own thing and they're not going to take accountability for the things that they did. I'm not saying that men are perfect in any type of way, or they that there's not room for growth or improvement in those areas. What I'm saying is society kind of forces us to take accountability in certain ways where certain sectors of society may not have to deal with things the same way that we do. And I kind of saw this like one day I took my son to the park, and one day when I took him to the park, there was a birthday party going on, and in the birthday party they had all these balloon displays, and it was a kids party, and they had all these balloon displays, and some of the balloons had like Spider-Man and stuff like that. So my son loved Spider-Man. So at the end of the party, there was a lady that was cutting the balloons up. She was cutting the balloons off of the display, and she was handing it out to the kids that was still there at the park playing, and whoever wanted one. So my son loves Spider-Man. He walked over and he asked the lady, "Can I have one?" And so the lady ended up cutting. She was down to her last like couple of balloons. It was like a big entranceway display that she was cutting off of. And my son was over playing on the park, and he was doing this thing. He was having a good time. And by the time he came over, she was on, her last couple of balloons she was cutting up. And so she cut the balloons up, and she gave my son like the last one or two that was left. And so my son takes it and he's playing with it. And you know how kids play the pat game where they bouncing a balloon up in the air and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm looking at my son. He's having fun. He's having a good time. And I'm thanking the lady actually for, cutting the balloon up and giving it to my son and all of that kind of stuff. And in just that split second that I turned my head, there was a little girl that ran up, and the little girl, she was about my son's age at the time. They were about 4 at the time. My son just turned 5, but she was about 4 at the time, and the little girl ran up and she looked at my son and she started fighting with him, trying to take the balloon away from him. So my son is still playing with it, and he's trying to like grab it from him, and they get into like pretty much like a tussling situation where they're kind of fighting over the balloon. And while they're fighting over the balloon, the little girl yells out, "He took this balloon from me! Like he took it from me!" And so when the little girl said that, the little girl's mother came over and she's like, "Excuse me, your son just took that balloon from my daughter." And I'm sitting here because I know what just happened. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I sat here and just watched this lady cut the balloon off of the string for my son personally, because he ran up and asked her politely. You know what I'm saying? He ran up with his manners, asked the lady, could he have a balloon? The lady said, yeah, she had to cut, she had to cut it off the display that it was on. And so when she cut it off, she handed it to him, and it was what it was. And just with me turning my head, basically saying thank you to the lady and turning back to my son, there was a little girl trying to take the balloon from him. And she was adamant, like, no, he took it from me. He took it from me. And so the girl's mother was adamant, like literally trying to, fight with me. Like, listen, your son took my balloon. And the saddest part about it is like how it's weaponized against us a lot of times as men, because she came in and she's like, no, your son took the balloon from us. Your son, you need to teach her. Like, she's basically like going in on my son about taking this balloon from my son. And at the time, like, she was basically saying my son took the balloon away from her. And I know what just happened, but there was no way for me to actually argue it or prove it. Even as I said it, I'm like, man, we just got the balloon from the lady that cut it off of the display. She wasn't trying to hear none of that. The mother was like, no, your son took it from my daughter. You need to give it back. This, that, and the third. And I'm like, and if it hadn't been for the lady that actually cut it off speaking up, because she came over, she saw, there was a kind of a discrepancy going on. And she literally told the girl, like, hey, listen, I gave him that. So I know he didn't take it from your daughter, this, that, and the third. And so the girl was just like, oh, I thought he took it. I thought he took it from her. She was, basically went into, then it was like no accountability. So the mother didn't want to take accountability on the fact that she didn't ever really know if her daughter actually had the balloon first or not. She didn't even check to see if my son had the balloon or not. She just blindly believed what her daughter was saying. And that's kind of the same way that I feel like a lot of us that have gone through narcissistic abuse and had to deal with flying monkeys or the narcissist family, these people just take what the person is saying and blindly believe it, and are willing to stand on that hill and die on that hill because they really feel like this person is telling them the truth, or whatever the case may be. Or sometimes they could know that they're not telling the truth, or whatever the case may be, but they have a blind, like, I'm going to ride with this person to the end type of mentality. And because they have that type of mentality, these people that commit these type of offenses never learn to take accountability. So like I said, this young lady was about 4 years old at this time. She was about the same age as my son. So imagine if, she's never been taught to take accountability over the years. She could run up and say, hey, he took that from me. And everybody just runs with the narrative and says, oh, well, that little boy took the balloon from, and I know this is on a smaller level, but this is just how it gets perpetuated into mainstream society. It's like starts on small levels, and then it like goes into bigger and bigger and bigger levels. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I mean, if it can happen on a small level, it can happen on a big level, is what I'm trying to say. So I just kind of wanted to drop this in y'all lap real quick, because I feel like a lot of us have that have actually gone through narcissistic abuse have wondered, like, how could this person do the things that they do and actually accept no accountability for it? And I honestly feel like this is a learned process. This is something that um, I don't think it's nature. I think it's more so nurture. If you've been used to getting away with things by playing the victim, then what's to stop you from continuing to do it in adulthood? And a lot of these people grow up to be adults that are attractive or whatever the case may be. And a lot of us want to get into relationships or whatever the case may be. And when we do get into those relationships, now we're looking at the situation like, well, I can't believe I got into a relationship with this type of person or that type of person, when it's, we couldn't see the things that shaped them in the past. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of us made decisions based on the information that we had at the time. So, like I said, I just wanted to drop that in y'all lap and just kind of show you how I honestly feel like nurture is one of the main components of like narcissism. A lot of people want to, they get into, well, you could have been born this way, and it's a lot of talk about the prefrontal, you know, like the frontal part of your brain and all of that stuff that they like to bring into the mix, which I honestly do believe plays a big part of it as well. But I think this is something that's more so over time, that's embedded into people over and over and over, that has just been trained to not take accountability for a lot of the things that they do, because they have the support system that's going to always speak up, that's going to always fight for them. Anytime they get into a jam, anytime they do anything that's against the grain, they have the support system that's going to kind of step up to the plate and fight for them, regardless whether they right, wrong, or indifferent. So, y'all that have dealt with us in narcissistic abuse, please get in the comment box and let me know if you have, let me know some of the examples that you've dealt with going, through your own personal situation. So you can kind of, give the other listeners an example of some of the things that you went through as well. So I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. I do appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with the channel. And like I said, I will be back with more content as soon as possible, man. Love you guys.